Welcome to English Podcast.
I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
So let's get started and make English learning easy. So, Eric, what are the words today?
The first word today is loose. Then we will continue with apparently and to gather. Then get by. And the final one is jump the gun.
Okay, let's start with the first word.
Our first word is loose.
Loose.
Loose. Loose is an adjective. It means that something is not tight or not firmly fixed. For example, if your shoes are too big, they are loose.
It's a useful word for describing clothes, objects, or even situations. Eric, can you give us another example sentence?
Sure, Lisa. The first example is, my tooth is loose. It means that my tooth is not firmly attached and might fall out soon.
Great. Here's another one. He wears a loose shirt. It means that his shirt is big and not tight on his body.
Remember, loose is an adjective, so it describes nouns. Don't confuse it with lose, which means not having something anymore. It sounds like lose, but lose has one O and is a verb.
Good point, Eric. Don't mix them up. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue using loose.
Be careful with that dog. The leash looks loose.
Oh no, you're right. I need to fix it.
The dog might run away if the leash is too loose.
Thanks for telling me. I don't want to lose him.
In this dialogue, loose is used to describe the leash that is not tight. And Tom doesn't want the dog to run away because the leash is loose. So, Eric, do you think loose is a common word?
Yes, Lisa. It's a common word we use in daily life.
I agree. Do you think it's more formal or informal?
Loose is neutral. It can be used in both formal and informal situations. You can use it in any situation.
That's helpful to know. When do you use loose most often, Eric?
I use it a lot when talking about clothes or objects that aren't secure. How about you, Lisa?
Same here. I also use it when describing relaxed rules or schedules, like, we have a loose plan for the weekend.
That's a great example. It shows how versatile this word can be. Remember, everyone, you can use loose when you talk about things that aren't tight or fixed in place. And be careful about the spelling and meaning. It's a useful word.
Great advice. And that wraps up our explanation of loose. Let's move on to our next word.
The next word is apparently.
Apparently.
Apparently is an adverb that means something seems true. It's often used when we're talking about something we've heard from others, but we're not sure.
That's right. We use apparently when talking about the information we got from someone else or something we read.
Let's look at the first example sentence. Apparently, the train is delayed.
It means that I heard or saw that the train is late, but I'm not sure if it's true.
Good example. Here's another one. She is apparently moving to Canada next month. It means that it seems she is moving to Canada, but maybe we did not hear it directly from her.
We often use apparently at the beginning of the sentence, but we can also place it after the verb.
For example, they have apparently decided to cancel the meeting. Sometimes we put it at the end of the sentence. He didn't come to the party, apparently.
Now let's listen to a short dialogue using apparently.
Did you hear about the new cafe?
No, what about it?
Apparently it serves the best coffee in town.
Really? We should check it out.
Yes, apparently. They also have live music on weekends.
That sounds great.
In this dialogue, apparently is used twice to share information that Emma has heard about the new cafe.
Right. She is telling Mike what she heard, but she was not there herself.
So, Eric, do you think apparently is a common adverb?
Yes, it's quite common in everyday English. People use it to share information that they are not sure about.
Is it formal or informal?
It's neutral. You can use it in both formal writing and casual conversation.
That's helpful. It can make your English sound more natural.
Definitely. Also, using apparently shows that you are careful with information. You are not saying something is 100% true.
Good point, Eric. It is polite to use apparently when you are not sure.
Exactly. So, to our listeners, try to use apparently when you want to share information you heard but are not completely sure about. It will help you communicate more effectively.
Well, that's all for apparently. Do you have any final thoughts, Eric?
Just that it's a very useful word. I encourage everyone to add it to their vocabulary.
Great advice. Let's continue to our next word.
The next word is gather.
Gather.
Gather. Gather is a verb, and it means to bring things or people together in one place. For example, you can gather your friends for a party, or you can gather information from different sources.
And we can use gather in different ways. Sometimes we say gather with around when we want people to come closer, like gather around the table. It can also mean collecting or picking things up, like gathering flowers.
Let's look at our first example sentence. We need to gather information for the project. It means that we need to collect information from different places to complete the project.
Great example. Here's another one. The children gathered around the teacher to listen to a story. This means the children came together and stood near the teacher to hear the story.
Good job, Lisa. So remember, we use gather when we are bringing things or people together. Sometimes you might see it with prepositions like around or together.
And now, let's use gather in a short dialogue to help our listeners understand it better.
Tom, we need to gather volunteers for tomorrow's event.
That's a good idea, Maria. I will gather a few people and meet you here in an hour.
Perfect. I will also gather some of the materials we need for the event.
Sounds great. Let's gather everything we need to make the event successful.
In this dialogue, gather is used to talk about collecting volunteers and supplies. It shows that gathering can mean bringing people or things together in one place.
Well, it's versatile. We use it to talk about collecting things, bringing people together, or even understanding information.
Eric, would you say gather is a common word in English?
Yes, I'd say it's quite common, especially when organizing events, meetings, or collecting information. You might hear it in both casual and more formal settings.
I agree. It works well in both formal and informal contexts.
So, to all our listeners, you can use it when you talk about collecting or bringing things or people together. It's a handy word to know.
And that's our third word for today, gather. We hope you enjoyed it.
Stay tuned because we have 2 more words to explore in this episode.
If so, let's move on to our next word.
Our next phrase is get by.
Get by.
Get by. Get by is a phrasal verb, and it means to manage or survive with what you have, especially when you do not have much. For example, you can get by on a small salary, or you can get by speaking only a little of a language when traveling.
Yes, and we often use get by when we are talking about managing with limited resources like money or skills.
Let's look at our first example sentence. Even though she doesn't have a lot of money, she can get by. It means that she manages to live without much money.
That's a good example, Eric. Here's another one. I don't speak much French, but I can get by when I travel to France. It means that the person can manage to communicate, even with limited French language skills.
Exactly. The word get by shows how someone can handle a situation when things are not perfect or they don't have everything they need.
Yes, and remember, when we use get by, we often use it with prepositions like on or with. For example, get by on $50 a week, or get by with only a few words.
Perfect. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue to help everyone understand how to use get by in conversation.
Hey, Jake. How are you doing with your new job?
It's okay, but the pay isn't great. I have to be careful with my spending, but I can get by.
I understand. When I was a student, I used to get by with very little money.
Yeah, it's not easy, but we manage.
That was a good example, Eric. It shows how get by can be used to talk about managing difficult situations.
Yes, and it also shows that getting by is often about struggles or challenges.
Now, Eric, do you think get by is common in English?
Yes, absolutely. It's very common, especially in everyday conversations. People use it often in everyday conversations about money, work, or life challenges.
And it's mostly used in informal settings. You wouldn't really use it in formal writing. It's very useful in daily life.
That's true. We use it a lot in casual conversations with friends or family.
Good point. Why do you think it's an important phrase for English learners to know?
Well, it's a realistic way to talk about managing difficulties. It's more specific than just saying, I'm okay, or I'm struggling. It expresses common life difficulties that many people can relate to.
Exactly. Well, I think we've covered get by pretty well. Shall we move on to our last word today?
Yes, let's do that. Remember, listeners, even when learning English is tough, keep trying and you'll get by.
Great reminder, Eric. Okay, what is the last word?
The last word today is jump the gun.
Jump the gun.
Jump the gun. Jump the gun is an idiom that means to start something too soon or act too quickly before the right time.
That's right. When we say someone jumped the gun, they did something earlier than they should have. It comes from the idea of starting a race before the starting gun is fired.
Exactly. Let me give an example sentence. Tom jumped the gun and sent the email before the boss approved it.
It means that Tom sent the email too early, before he got permission from his boss.
Good explanation. Now it's your turn, Lisa.
Sure. Here's my example. Don't jump the gun to decide to buy a new car until you've saved enough money. It means that you shouldn't make a decision to buy a new car too soon, before you have enough money.
Now, let's hear a short dialogue using the phrase, jump the gun.
Hi, John, I heard. You have already started working on the new project.
Yes, I was excited to begin. Is there a problem?
Well, you jumped the gun a bit. We haven't finalized the budget yet.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump the gun.
It's okay, but in the future, please wait for the green light before starting.
That was a good example, Lisa. It also shows how jump the gun can be used in a workplace setting.
Yes, and it also shows that jumping the gun can sometimes cause problems in professional situations.
Absolutely. So, Lisa, do you think jump the gun is a common idiom in English?
Yes, it's quite common. People use it in various situations, both personal and professional.
That's true. Is it more formal or informal?
I'd say it's more informal, but it can be used in semi-formal work situations, as we saw in the example dialogue we gave just before.
Good point. Why do you think it's an important phrase for English learners to know?
Well, it's a useful way to describe a common mistake people make. It's more colorful than just saying, started too early.
I agree. It helps learners express themselves more vividly in English.
Exactly. Well, I think we've reached the end of our podcast today. We hope you found today's episode helpful.
Thanks for listening. Keep practicing your English and stay in tune.
Bye for now. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
So let's get started and make English learning easy. So, Eric, what are the words today?
The first word today is remarkable. Then we will continue with trait and to convince. Then come clean. And the final one is that ship has sailed.
Okay, let's start with the first word.
The first word today is remarkable.
Remarkable.
Remarkable. Remarkable is an adjective that means something that is very special or unusual in a good way. It's something that makes people notice it.
Yes. When we say something is remarkable, we mean it's special or amazing.
Exactly. Now, let's give some example sentences to understand better.
Sure. Eric, why don't you start with the first one?
Okay, Lisa. Here's an example. Despite her young age, she has a remarkable piano talent.
Good sentence. Can you explain it, Eric?
It means she is unusually good at playing the piano, especially considering her young age.
Great explanation. Let me give you the second example. The view from the top of the mountain was remarkable. It means that the view was very beautiful and special, different from what you usually see. So the view made the person feel amazed.
Exactly. Now, let's give our listeners a little sample dialogue using the word remarkable. Ready?
Always ready.
Wow, look at this painting. It's so beautiful.
You're right. The colors are remarkable. I've never seen anything like it.
And the detail is remarkable too. How does the artist do it?
I don't know, but it's truly remarkable work. The whole exhibition is remarkable.
I agree. This gallery visit has been a remarkable experience.
That was a good example, Eric. It shows how remarkable can be used to describe different aspects of something impressive.
Yes, and it also shows that remarkable things often cause strong reactions or feelings.
So, Eric, let's talk a little more about this word. What do you think? Is the word remarkable common in everyday English?
Yes, it's fairly common. People use it often when they want to express that something is very special or impressive.
That's true. Is it more formal or informal?
Well, I'd say it's neutral. We can use it in both casual conversations and more formal situations.
Good point. Why do you think it's an important word for English learners to know?
Well, it's a powerful way to describe things that are special or amazing. It's more expressive than just saying good or nice.
That's right. It helps learners express positive opinions about things. Well, I think we've covered remarkable pretty well. Shall we move on to our next word?
Yes, let's do that. Remember, listeners, your progress in learning English can be truly remarkable if you keep studying.
Great reminder, Eric. And now let's move on to our next word.
Our next word is trait.
Trait.
Trait. Trait is a noun. That means talking about a specific quality or characteristic someone or something has. For example, a person might have the trait of being kind or funny.
It's often used to describe personality, but it can also describe physical traits, like having blue eyes or curly hair. Let's give our listeners some example sentences. Eric, you start with the first one?
Okay, here's the first example. Honesty is an important trait for a leader.
Nice sentence. Now, can you explain it?
Sure, Lisa. Honesty is the trait we're talking about. It means that being honest or always telling the truth is something that a good leader should have.
Great explanation. Let me give the second example. Her best trait is being very patient with children.
Can you explain that one?
Of course. In this sentence, her best trait means the most important or strongest characteristic she has. It means she stays calm and never gets angry, even when children are noisy or difficult to handle.
Now, let's look at a little sample dialogue using the word trait.
I really like our teacher. She has a lot of good traits.
Yeah, me too. I think her best trait is how she always listens to us carefully.
I agree. Being a good listener is such an important trait for a teacher.
That was a great example. In this dialogue, Mike and Jane use the word trait to describe the good qualities of their teacher. First, Mike says, she has a lot of good traits, meaning she has many positive characteristics. Then Jane says, the best trait is how she listens carefully, which is an important quality for a teacher.
Yes, it shows how we use the word trait to talk about the characteristics that make someone a good person or good at their job. Now, Lisa, do you think trait is a common word in everyday English?
I think trait is used more in formal or specific conversations, like when people talk about someone's personality or behavior. It's not a word we use every day, but it's very useful in the right situations.
I agree. It's more common in school, work, or when we're talking about someone's personality in detail.
Yes, but it's still good to know because you'll hear it when people talk about what makes someone special or different.
Absolutely. So that's the word trait.
Okay, Eric, let's move on to our next word.
The next word is to convince.
To convince.
To convince. Convince is a verb we use when we make someone believe or agree with something. If you convince someone, it means you help them change their mind or make them understand your idea.
Exactly, Eric. You convince someone by giving reasons or explanations. And after listening to you, they believe or accept what you said. So, it's about helping someone feel sure about something.
Let me give you the first example. Here's my sentence. I convinced my friend to come to the party. What does that mean? It means that I talked to my friend and gave him reasons to come to the party. Finally, he decided to come. So, I helped him change his mind or make a decision.
Great example. Here's my sentence. The ad convinced me to buy the phone. This means that after seeing the advertisement, I believed buying the phone was a good idea. So the ad helped me decide to buy it.
Perfect. Now, here's something important. When you use the verb convince, it's often followed by to. For example, convince someone to do something. In the sentence, I convinced my friend to come.
Yes, that's an important grammar rule. For example, you don't say, I convinced him coming. You say, I convinced him to come.
Exactly. Now, let's hear a short dialogue that uses the word convince.
I wasn't sure about the project, but Jack convinced me to join.
Really? How did he convince you?
He explained how exciting the project is and how much I could learn from it. So, I decided to join.
Great example. In this conversation, Emily wasn't sure about the project at first, but Jack convinced her to change her mind and join the project. Eric, do you think convince is a word we use a lot?
I think we use it often, especially in everyday situations. It's not too formal and it's not too casual. You can use it with friends, at work, or even in school when you're trying to make someone agree with you.
I agree. It's a useful word because we often try to help others, believe in our ideas. For example, you might want to convince someone to try a new restaurant or convince your boss to let you take a day off.
Yes, it's really helpful in all kinds of conversations.
I agree. Okay, I think we've explained to convince pretty well. Let's move on to the next word, Eric.
The next word we'll talk about is come clean. Come clean.
Come clean.
Come clean is an idiom. It means to finally tell the truth about something you've been hiding.
When you come clean, it means you stop lying or keeping a secret and you say, what really happened? People often say it when someone tells the truth after hiding something for a while.
Let me give you an example. After a long time, he came clean about breaking the window. This means that he didn't tell the truth about who had broken the window for a long time, but after some time, he finally told the truth and admitted he did it. So, he came clean.
Great example, Eric. Here's my sentence. I decided to come clean to my parents about failing the test. It means that I told my parents the truth about my test results, even though I didn't want to tell them at first. So when I came clean, I stopped hiding the truth from them.
That's right. One important thing about this phrase is that we usually use it in situations where someone has been hiding the truth. So if someone has been keeping a secret or not being honest, and then they finally tell the truth, we say they come clean.
Now, let's practice using come clean in a short dialogue.
I knew about the surprise party for weeks, but finally came clean and told Rosa.
Really? Why did you come clean?
I felt bad about keeping it a secret, so I told her before the party happened.
In this conversation, Sarah had kept the surprise party a secret for a long time. But then she decided to come clean, meaning she finally told Rosa about the party. So, Eric, do you think come clean is a common phrase in English?
Oh yes, it's very common in informal conversations. You'll hear it often when people talk about admitting something they've been keeping secret. It's not formal, so people use it with friends, family, or in casual situations.
I agree. It's a useful phrase, especially when you want to talk about being honest after hiding something.
Exactly. So, remember, when you need to tell the truth after keeping a secret, you can say you're going to come clean.
Good summary, Eric. Okay, we have reached the last word today. What's the last for today, Eric?
The last word today is that ship has sailed.
That ship has sailed.
That ship has sailed. That ship has sailed is an idiom that means it's too late to do something now. You missed the chance.
When we say that ship has sailed, we mean a chance is gone and we can't change things anymore.
Exactly. Let me give an example sentence. I wanted to apply for the job, but that ship has sailed. The last day to apply was yesterday. It means that the opportunity to apply for the job is gone because the time to apply has passed. Now it's your turn, Lisa. Can you give us another example?
Sure. Here's another example. Tom wanted to apologize to Sarah, but that ship has sailed. She's already moved to another city. It means that it's too late for Tom to say sorry because Sarah has already left and isn't coming back.
Good example. Now, let's hear a short dialogue using the phrase, that ship has sailed.
Hey, Emma, are you still thinking about joining the basketball team?
But I think that ship has sailed. The tryouts were last week.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe next year?
Maybe, but for now that ship has sailed. I'll have to find another hobby.
That was a good example, Lisa. It shows how we use this phrase when talking about missed opportunities.
Yes, and it also shows that we often use it when we accept that something can't happen now.
Absolutely. So, Lisa, do you think "that ship has sailed" is a common phrase in English?
Yes, it's fairly common. People use it often in casual conversations about missed chances or things that can't be changed.
That's true. Is it informal or formal?
I'd say it's more informal. We use it mostly with friends or in relaxed situations, not in formal writing or speeches.
Good point. Why do you think it's an important phrase for English learners to know?
Well, it's a colorful way to express a common idea. It's more interesting than just saying, "It's too late."
I agree. It adds flavor to the language and helps learners sound more natural.
Exactly. Well, I think we've reached the end of our today's podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English and stay tuned.
Bye for now.